I've read 7 of Freida McFadden's most popular books. Let's rank them. Before we start, I want to say that I loved all 7 of these books, and I would recommend you read all of them. I'm just ranking them based off my preference, and pretty much if you were looking for something to get you out of a reading slump, you can pick up any of these books, and you'll read it probably in 2 days or less. Also, I'm not going to spoil anything in my rankings, so don't worry if you have not read them yet. Coming in at number 7 is The Teacher. I felt like this dragged on a tiny bit, and I also just feel like there was not a single moment where I was like, oh my god, where I feel like every other book she has, I feel like that. Not my favorite. Number 6, I'm gonna put The Housemaid. I'm very excited this is becoming a movie, but I actually made a whole TikTok about The Housemaid last year when I read it because I felt like the plot was pretty much copied from a different book that I read, The Last Mrs. Parrish. So if you've read The Last Mrs. Parrish, you can probably predict the plot of this one. It definitely is a good book, don't get me wrong. There was only so much that this main character could like just sit and put up with and not report, and I was just like, okay, let's move on. Coming in at number 5 is The Housemates Secret. I actually really loved this book in the trilogy. It was definitely more original than the first one in terms of other things I've read, but it was not my favorite in the trilogy, which is coming up next. So number 4 is The Housemaid is Watching. This was my favorite book in the trilogy. I thought it was so good. There was a big plot twist where I was like, no way. I think that she took it as far as she could take it, and it didn't feel like it was too much. Like, I feel like a lot of people online said that they were like, all right, she's stretching this series, like, let's wrap it up. I actually really liked the 3rd book, and I thought it was the best one of the trilogy. Coming in at number 3 was The Inmate. I feel like it was so different than typical thrillers that I read about. Like, I don't think I've ever read a book about somebody who's in jail and, like, what goes on there and kind of the roles people play. And the plot twist in that, I don't think I could have ever seen coming. I loved that one. That's number 3 for me. Coming in at number 2 is Never Lie. This book is so good. The theory I had going the whole time was nothing like how it actually turned out, and I could not put it down. I read it in one day. Pick it up. And finally, my number 1 Freida McFadden book is The Boyfriend. I've made 2 TikToks about this already because I'm obsessed with it. It was so good. I could have never predicted the ending. I was so wrong, and I would have never come up with what was the truth by myself. And I love that in a book. I can't wait to read my next Freida McFadden book. What do you guys think it should be? Comment on this video, and happy reading.